Welcome to AUDL Weekly. So glad to have you with us tonight for our program dedicated to ultimate stories, perspectives, conversations, and more. My name's Evan Lepler, and we are getting so close to the 2022 AUDL season. Atlanta and Carolina will launch the new campaign 2 weeks from this Friday. And then we're on the road to championship weekend, Madison, in late August. It's going to be an epic journey between now and then. And speaking of epic journeys, tomorrow I have the privilege of boarding a flight to Medellin, Colombia, as I will join members of the Los Angeles Aviators, New York Empire, and DC Breeze down in South America this weekend for a Saturday showcase doubleheader streaming live on AUDL.tv. I really don't know what to expect. I've never been to South America before, but I am super excited for this experience ahead. But first, really good show for you tonight. Obviously, Adam and Daniel are back for another spirited disc debate in toss-up, and Matt Smith has Pittsburgh big man CJ Colicchio for a brand new Upline and Out of Bounds. We also have a two-part interview with the head coach of the Atlanta Hustle, Miranda Knowles, who just might be the busiest person in Ultimate right now. So much to discuss, in fact, with Miranda that we're going to skip the toss this week to make more time for the legend. So, Miranda Knowles coming up next. You're watching AUDL Weekly on AUDL.tv, so stick around. Welcome back to AUDL Weekly, and my guest tonight is Miranda Roth-Knowles, who has to be among the most busy people in the world of Ultimate right now. Miranda, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for making a few minutes for me. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, I struggled to figure out where we should start because there's so much going on. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about the AUDL team that you coach in the next segment, but you're the assistant coach of the USA World Games team, and that team was announced recently. You're getting ready to compete in Birmingham, Alabama this summer in July. And look, you were part of the selection process as a coach, which I'm sure was fascinating, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you for all the insider decisions because I know you wouldn't give them to me anyway. But you were also a player back in 2005 for the USA World Games team. So what was the experience like as a coach in the tryout process, and how did that compare to playing 17 some odd years ago?
Yeah, we don't need to enumerate that. But yeah, I do think it was really valuable for me as a coach this time around to have played and to have had that experience. It was playing in Germany in 2005 was like the best playing experience of my life, I would say. And I'm so glad that I got to have it. I did start as an alternate actually that year. And so I think that gives me a perspective, particularly as we selected this World Games team, of like what it's like to be getting the different emails. I was also cut from the 2009 team. I got injured at tryouts and got cut and was like, I thought I was still really good. And so I think I've gotten all three of those emails, and I think that gives me a perspective that I appreciate having. I think it's good on the coaching staff. And it also just, it makes me remember how important these decisions are, and that obviously none of them are taken lightly, and we put a lot of thought and consideration into them. And I will remember these decisions for a long time and be thinking about them, because there are people that we cut that I would love to coach. And there are people who are alternates who absolutely could step on that field. So it's a very difficult job, but it's very good that I have the perspective, I think, that I do of my playing experiences.
It's hard to imagine a better fit for the coaching staff. What were the deliberations like between you and Maddie Singh and Patrick Sherlock? How intense did those conversations get?
Yeah, and Nancy's son too. She's our selection assistant and is thankfully sticking with us into the practices, and we'll try to drag her along as much as we possibly can. I think, we've talked so much about Ultimate over the last, 8-9 months as a coaching staff, that unsurprisingly, we're mostly aligned on our decisions and how we wanted to assess things. I think, honestly, the hardest part is being in 2 different time zones. And so we had a lot of these conversations either very early for Maddie and Nancy or very late for me and Patrick, because also, like, Maddie and I are both parents, and, things happen during the day. But I think that there was nothing ever heated at all about it, although we are very passionate about the people that we get to coach this time around. And I think I just learned so much from having these conversations with, the smartest people in the game. Like, it's so cool to hear how Maddie evaluates players and how Patrick sees particularly the mixed game, and just everything that Nancy has to say. She's so logical and thoughtful. So it's been a really great experience, and a very, deep experience to choose the team.
Well, hopefully the best is still ahead with practice weekends and then the competition this summer. Last time USA competed in the World Games 2017 in Poland, they lost a game to Colombia at the start of the tournament and then got their revenge against the Colombians in the final. The growth of Colombian Ultimate, certainly something I'll be talking about a bunch this weekend. And you kind of had a front row seat to the genesis, if not the genesis, the early days of Colombian Ultimate rising into that world stage. I learned this past week that you got to know Mauricio Moore and Aleja Torres, 2 of the transformative individuals in Colombian Ultimate, way back when, over a decade ago. I won't say how many years in Seattle. What do you remember about meeting that Colombian duo? And what were your first impressions of experiencing Colombia when you got to go down, I think in 2008, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I went a couple of times to TEP as a player with Riot, and then as a player with Ozone in, more recent times. And I also got to take a youth team from Atlanta because TEP has a youth division as well. That's very cool. So I've seen it from many sides, and for a while, 14, 15 years. I think there was this sort of feeling in 2008 of what's going on? Why are we being flown to South America, and what's happening? Who are these people? Why is the government interested in this? And it was so cool to be part of that first tournament, or that first very international TEP, and the clinics that preceded it. I think there were some baby Cardeneses in the clinics that we were coaching, and just watching them now is phenomenal. But I think it just, for me back then, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is what Ultimate could be if it did become a regular sport in PE classes, or an NCAA sport funded by the government as part of the Ministry of Sport. And so it was really exciting to be part of that, and to try to, showcase what the game could be to people who might be truly funding it in another country. And then, later that year, Mauricio Moore came and lived on my couch for a while, and his English was very minimal. My Spanish has always been pretty poor. And, he just wanted to soak it up in Seattle back then, and played for Sockeye. Aleja then came later on and played for Riot. She was an amazing teammate, one of my favorites. We played Worlds together and a couple of Nationals. And, even though we couldn't always communicate with language, just the way that they saw the game, the way that they brought really cool ideas to us too. It was not one directional flow of information. And then they took everything they saw, both Aleja and Mauricio, and just have really revolutionized the game in Colombia. And I certainly admire the style of play from down there. Whenever someone asks me who my favorite sports team is, I always say Medellin Revolution, because they're amazing.
Well, you'll be competing against many of those superstars in Birmingham this summer. Your team, the Atlanta Hustle, is not going to Columbia this weekend, but if you were leading your AUDL team there, or you could give some advice to the Aviators or the Empire or the Breeze on just what to expect from this whole TEP experience, what would that advice or be?
I would say it's a great time to work on your flexibility because there's a lot of chaos, I would say. Like, I remember we were like, oh, we're going to get in this van, and there was no van, and we all had to take a million different taxis and things like that. Or like your sleeping arrangements change or whatever. And it's always good. Like, it's always great changes, but there are changes. There will be changes. And that's the kind of thing as a coach, it happens in games, right? The other team changes their defense. It starts raining. Whatever, the crowd is heckling you or something, and you have to be able to adapt to these changes really quickly. And I think that going and playing at TEP, like, you'll find out you're in a showcase game that you didn't know about, or you're leading a clinic and you're just going to go do it and do a great job of it. And I think embracing that, spur of the moment change and finding the good in it could be a really cool thing for the teams that get to go.
Well, it's going to be a cool experience this weekend, and you've got plenty of teams that you're coaching already, so you don't need to head to Columbia this weekend. We talked about the World Games. We talked about Columbia. Miranda's going to stick around for one more segment when we're going to dive into the Atlanta Hustle, who have the ambition of certainly getting to championship weekend for the first time this year. More with Miranda Knowles here on AUDL Weekly right after this. We are back with the head coach of the Atlanta Hustle, Miranda Knowles. Miranda, you're coaching several teams right now, the World Games team. Your Paideia girls are, I'm sure, improving and doing great as always. And then there's this Atlanta Hustle team that was oh so close to championship weekend last year. Sorry to remind you, but just a phenomenal 2021 season that y'all experienced. What's the feeling as you have had your preseason camps and you're building toward opening night, which is 2 weeks from Friday in North Carolina?
I think the feeling that I keep coming back to is when we have these practices, I kind of look around and I'm like, this is the best team we've ever had, right? Like, this is way better. I think the ceiling is quite high, but the floor has never been this high for us. We have 45 people on this roster, and I would love to play all 45 of them. And I think that looking at this season and knowing that I will joyfully select any of these athletes to play is a really different feeling. Whereas in the past, there have been people who are like just a little too green, or like, we're not quite ready, or didn't know the AUDL game well enough. Like, even the people who haven't played an AUDL season, they've watched a ton of film and they're like completely ready. They know our stuff from watching our games. So I feel honestly more prepared from top to bottom than ever before. I think probably the thing that I'm missing from last year is, last year we were deep in the pandemic when the season started still, and no one had anything else going on. So everyone was at every single practice. And this year, I have a different 20 to 30 guys at every practice. And so there's a little bit of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, revisiting things from weekend to weekend to make sure that we're all on the same correct page. So that's, I guess, my joy is who's on this team, and the challenge is making sure whoever is up there playing in Raleigh has played together before.
I've heard other coaches remark about that issue with so much going on in the world of Ultimate these days. But you got a game 2 weeks from Friday. A lot of familiar names coming back, like Austin Taylor, who had a great season, and Matt Smith, one of your leaders for such a long time. And you bring John Stubbs back, and so many of your key defenders like Kelvin and Brett and Jock. And I mean, we could run down the whole list. You lose Antoine Davis, but you bring in Khalif El Salam. And I could have asked this question in the World Games part, but my understanding is that you go back a long time with Khalif. Did you coach him at Mercer Middle School in Seattle?
So he was at Mercer Middle School when I first started coaching him, but I unfortunately was not one of those awesome coaches at Mercer. I coached the club team, the small fries, that Khalif and Justin Lim and Jordan Lim and Nina Finley and Ari Lozano, like Henry Fan, people who are still playing, Jesse Bolton, the list goes on. These kids went to different middle schools and played together on the club team that I did get to coach. And so I got to work with them for about 4 years at the end of my time in Seattle before I moved away. So yeah, the last time I was coaching Khalif, he was insisting on wearing white jeans to every practice and being so good in just like, restrained by his gear. And now he's like become he's made a different brand for himself now. And he's just as dominant as he was on those fields back then.
I'm sure there's a backstory there, but we'll dive into that with Khalif another time. What was the process of bringing him to the Hustle, and what do you expect his impact to be?
Yeah, he actually emailed me kind of out of the blue and was just like, look, I want to play for great coaches and I respect y'all, so my coaching staff and me, and which is something I'm really proud of. We do have a very strong coaching staff. We added Ishan Dave and Tuba Benson Jaja this year, and it's just a really fulfilling staff. So Khalif was right about that, I think. And he also wanted to play for a team that was going to have a run at championship weekend and have a chance to do well once they got there, which I think we do have that chance. And then he was also looking for a team that had more racial diversity. And Atlanta, our team, has done really well, I think, with that. We have a lot of players in the Southeast, a lot of players of color, and we have a lot of like leadership of color on our team as well. And so I think that he was looking for that. And I also think he's found that, which is exciting, just for like the way that the sport could be trending, which would be neat. And so, yeah, he was like, these are the things I'm looking for. Would you want me to have a tryout? And I was like, you don't have to try out. But he did. He wanted to try out and go that, path, which I really respect. And so he came to our second closed tryout. Things went well, and we signed him, which was really awesome. And I think his impact is going to be huge. Like, Khalif on social media, like there's this, bravado and hyper confidence about him that actually is not who he is as a teammate, in my experience. Like he is so supportive of his teammates, and like when he does well, it's for his team, and when one of his teammates does well, he's the first one out there celebrating with them. And I think to have a player who's that good, who brings that attitude, is going to really bolster our team, especially in difficult moments. And that's something I am very excited about.
Well, he's got a crazy schedule coming up. You do as well. And obviously players in your team have college commitments or other life. What is it like putting the puzzle pieces together, both for you and your coaching staff and your players? Let's start with opening weekend, where you have a game in North Carolina on Friday and then your home opener against Tampa Bay less than 24 hours later.
Yeah. You end up with like lots of Post-it notes with ideas that might or might not be who plays that weekend. And I mean, I have been workshopping that with my staff for a long time. And it is putting those puzzle pieces together. This weekend really was the first time we truly played in what might be our different lines for the season. And so I have most of the ideas worked out, but there are certainly pieces that could go in different places. And fortunately, we're still choosing, even though we have people who will be absent that opening weekend, I'm choosing among lots of really great options, which again, like this is the first year I felt truly solid in that. So even though we'll be missing people, I'm happy about the people who will get to play.
Your division has changed considerably from a year ago when you were with 7 other teams all across the East Coast, and now the Flyers and Cannons are back with you, but the Texas teams are back in. All respect to the Texas teams and to the Cannons. It feels like the road to championship weekend through the South goes through the defending champs. And you guys got them on your home field in the opener last year. What are the main keys in your mind in facing the Flyers to start the season? They are reloaded again to try to go back to back.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, when I think about this season, I think about not dropping a game to Tampa or to Texas, which is no small feat. There's not a lot of teams who have ever won both games on a Texas road trip, for example. I think maybe just one.
I think one, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think you're right about that. But when we think about going to match up against Raleigh in that first game, I think it more is about like who we are as we step on that field, not really about who they are. I think we know pretty well who they are. I don't think, if you're them, you probably don't change too much from last year. Whereas I think we have a lot of new pieces. I mean, probably 25 to 50% of our roster they won't have seen before when we step on that field, which is kind of exciting. And in a way, I mean, yeah, there's inexperience from our side, but it's also like an unknown from their side. So I think that's kind of cool. And I think if we can go in there and like be confident in our game, especially in our offensive game, especially with our like handler set, which is again part of the newness to what we have, I think it could be really exciting, and like we could surprise them in that first game.
Very cool. I could ask you a million more questions. There's one more that I have to ask you. On March 20th, the Atlanta Hustle Twitter account posted a video of a drill that y'all did at practice. I don't even really know how to describe it. Looks like guys had to break balloons with their bodies.
No hands, no cleats.
What the heck happened? What was this?
We're building a team, Evan. That's what's happening. Yeah, so it's really cool because, again, like I said, coaching, again, with TJ Martin and George Summers and now Ishan and Tuba as well, like everyone brings a little different something. And part of what Tuba's excellence is actually this, building buy-in. And some of that is like not around the disc. It's not with plastic in your hands. And so it might be with rubber balloons in your hands, or not hands. And so he has a few tricks up his sleeve, just sort of like physical challenges. We did a couple more today at practice too, that are fun.
Is there more video coming out?
Oh yeah. I just sent the videos from today out to Bozy. So we'll see what makes it onto social media this week. But yeah, I think, some of it is like conditioning. So like this mutual suffering thing, but it's also like working on communication. So like, how do you coach someone through not being able to pop a balloon, right? What do you say to your teammate when they're struggling? And no, it doesn't matter about the balloon, but like you're practicing for something that could be happening in a game for sure.
Was this part of the interview process with Tuba? He's like, I got the balloon trick. It's going to reinvigorate everything.
It's funny. Yeah, I think, no, I did not ask Tuba what team building, weird, fun games he had up his sleeve. But it is funny, since we've done these in hustle practices, quite a few of us coach other teams, and we've all stolen his ideas because it's so fun. And like, you're in the middle of a 4-hour practice, right? And you're just like crushing each other, like, and sometimes it gets chippy. And then you're like, oh, let's go do this, random, like carry a ping pong ball with a spoon. And it's a race, a relay race. And it can release tension and just like build camaraderie in totally different ways. So yeah, the Paideia girls have been doing some of these things as well. And, I'm sure it's been spreading around to middle schools in Atlanta. So yeah, it's a thing.
Will the USA World Games team be doing any of these team building activities, just to wrap it up full circle here?
they could certainly benefit from some of these. Yes.
All right.
Credit to you, bud.
That'll be some fun footage to see. Miranda, cannot thank you enough for taking some time, more than anyone else would give. So thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you very soon with the Hustle, with the World Games team. You got a busy summer ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, buena suerte in Colombia.
Yes, muchas gracias. That's the limit of my Espanol.
That's a good one to know.
Hopefully it'll improve this weekend. That's Miranda Knowles, the coach of the Atlanta Hustle, the USA World Games team, the Paideia girls, and who knows how many other teams she's got up her sleeve. Adam and Daniel, I know you've been waiting for them. They're up next here on AUDL Weekly, coming up. AUDL Weekly rolls along as we bring in Adam Ruffner and Daniel Cohen. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Welcome back. Toss-up this week. Let's dive right in with topic number 1. They were 1-2 in total yards for the 2021 season. Daniel, who will accumulate more total yards in 2022? New York's Ryan Osgar or Chicago's Pavel Giannis?
I kind of keep flip-flopping on this one, to be totally honest. Because with
you're flip-flopping?
Yeah, well, it's not waffling. It's flip-flopping, I would say. I'm gonna pick one.
Warmer.
But I would like to set up my argument here. Osgar, obviously, you get the dual threatness of his throwing yards and receiving yards. He's getting downfield an infinitely more amount than Pavel. But I'm gonna go with Pavel, because the more I hear about New York, the more I hear about Jack Williams, and I'm buying into this narrative that maybe Jack Williams is going to get downfield a lot more this season, and I think it's going to make their offense a little less predictable. I think it's going to be a little less Williams to Osgar to Yacht every time, and I think that means slightly lower numbers for Osgar in 2022. With Pavel, I just think it's going to be Pavel or bust throughout the Chicago season. I think with the losses this offense suffered with the veterans they had last year that they don't have this year, I still don't know who's going to handle necessarily alongside Pavel. So I think, with his ability to get those 20-yard centering passes off the pole and really boost those receiving totals to the 2,000-yard mark, that plus the sheer number of touches he's going to get, I'm going to take Pavel.
Adam, what's a thumbs down mean?
Oh, just
he doesn't like the centering passes.
Yeah, the cheap 20-yard centering pass.
Just had to bring it up.
Pavel pad, or whatever you want to call it. The main handler's sort of inflation of total yard sets. Look, you can choose Pavel. I'm going to choose Ryan Osgar, because pretty much any offense he's been a part of for the past 4 to 5 years, he has been one of the most productive single scorers at any level he's played at. And that was true in year 1 with the Empire. We forget he was supposed to be integrating into that Empire established offensive rotation, and he came in and was basically 1A to Ben Yacht, the MVP, in terms of offensive production. I don't really expect that to slow down. In fact, I expect them to utilize him even more. It seems like he can have an off game, and you go back and you look at the stats, and he has over 400 yards and 8 total scores. He's just one of those players who fills it up, and he's still in his prime, and I just don't expect that to really slow down for Osgar, especially going into a year more with familiarity playing alongside Yacht and Jack Williams and John Lithgow and Elliot Chartok and the rest of the offensive weapons that this Empire team has.
Charles Weinberg also getting a lot of hype for O-line cutter for the Empire. So interesting. Well, a spicy start to today's toss-up. Let's move on to topic number 2 and see if the intensity continues. Adam, we'll start with you. Talking a couple dynamic Keystone State receivers. Who is going to score more goals in the 2022 regular season? Philadelphia's Greg Martin or Pittsburgh's CJ Colicchio?
With all due respect to Colicchio, I'm going to go with G-Mart. Since they've shifted him over to offense, going back to even 2019, I think it is, he's been one of the most per-game productive scorers in the AUDL. He continued that last year in 2021. He was just a force every single game. Despite Philadelphia being a pretty middling offensive team, he got his every time he went out there. I don't really expect that to slow down. I still think Philly is establishing who else is going to fill in around him and Sean Mott in that offense. And I think for Pittsburgh, they're going to look to continue to figure out how to solve some of the problems that they had in 2021 during their one-win season. And I think that means a little bit more distribution. They were already solely focused on CJ Colicchio and Max Shepard in 2021. And I kind of expect maybe a little bit more distributive approach in 2022, but I could be wrong.
I love it. If anyone likes bulletin board material, it's CJ Tweets a lot. Daniel, what do you think?
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna take Greg. I love watching Greg play. He plays like he's 6'5", but he's apparently listed as 5'10", which I'll never wrap my head around. But I think, Adam, you mentioned Max Shepard playing with CJ Colicchio in the Pittsburgh offense. I just think whenever you have Max Shepard alongside you, there's like clear competition for goals, whereas I feel like Philly, even Mott, like where he used to be sort of this more of a hybrid goal scorer, assist thrower, he had a career high in completions last season with over 400. He's sort of been forced into more of a backfield role, which has kind of left Greg Martin as their only real option downfield with any consistency, at least. Now, I hope that changes. I've been pushing for James Pollard to move to offense for the last year plus now. And so that would give me hope that I'm wrong on this prediction. But if what we saw last year is any indication of what this Philly offense will look like, I expect it will still be the Sean Mott to Greg Martin show throughout.
Good deal. Let's move on. Topic number 3. From catching goals to stopping them, who's going to compile more blocks in the 2022 regular season? Seattle's Drew Swanson, former Chicago defender, or Atlanta's Brett Holzmeier? Adam, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Holzmeier. I think he's really on a tear right now, and I think he was kind of almost undersold as almost like a co-defensive player of the year in 2021. He was that good for the hustle defense. He reminds me a lot of how Peter Graffi used to play in the back end of Madison's defense in their heyday of like 2014 through 2016, running their zone looks. Holzmeier just has a feel and an athleticism and frankly, a green light to do what he needs to do in that Atlanta zone, where it just feels like blocks come to him in bunches, both because of the system and because of his ability to generate them. I think Swanson is absolutely a top-tier defender in the AUDL. I'm just waiting to see how he's going to look in that Cascades D-line rotation. I expect him to get absolutely double-digit blocks in 2022. I just don't know if he'll continue to have that 20-plus block production level that he's had with Chicago the past 2 seasons.
Daniel.
I don't see why he won't, honestly. I'm taking Drew Swanson. I feel like a lot of my reasoning comes down to the fact that the West has been historically a lot more turnover heavy than the rest of the divisions. They play a little looser out there, and like watching that preseason game between Portland and Oakland, of course it was the preseason, but seeing the amount of hucks that went up on both sides, I was just thinking like Swanson's going to eat up so many of those this season. I just think he's going to fit right into that fiery Cascades D-line that they already have. And really the amount of deep throws that I expect to go up in the West this year, I think Swanson's going to benefit the most from that. So it's nothing against Holzmeier, really. I just think Swanson's in maybe a slightly better situation. Holzmeier's great. I'm a huge Holzmeier fan. Maybe he has a better overall season, but I think Swanson's going to be in more positions to get blocks. I'm not wavering at all. I'm going with Swanson. Holzmeier's great.
I think, like, I would take Swanson if not for the system that Holzmeier is in, where Atlanta's strategy is basically funnel blocks his way. So,
Sure.
Adam, as you wisely said, in a way that the Radicals did with Peter Graffi back in 13, 14, 15. All right, topic number 4. They are playing in an exhibition game in Medellin, Colombia this Saturday, exactly 2 weeks before beginning the regular season against one another. Both teams will have many, if not most, of their stars in South America this Saturday night. So the toss-up question is this: for whom is the preseason opportunity more important? The New York Empire or the DC Breeze? Daniel, you're up first.
Great toss-up question. I'm a little confused by it, which it's more important for, but I think what you're trying to get at is like what team is it more important that they like hit the ground running for 2022? I'm gonna say it's DC with the amount of new pieces that they've added. I think New York has obviously also added a good amount of new pieces that they'll need to figure out how to integrate. Antoine Davis, Charles Weinberg, like we mentioned before, but DC I think has more of a chance to look very different as an offense this year, where I don't think they're going to have to use this really handler-heavy approach. I think now they have the tools to integrate downfield a little bit more. Maybe we see a healthy Rowan getting downfield a bit more. So I'm more excited to see DC in action, whereas I think New York still might just have a very similar star-powered offense. So I'm excited to see them both, but I would lean DC for importance.
Adam?
I think it's got to be New York, and I think it's because this needs to be kind of a show of force moment for them. I think New York considers themselves almost in a singular class right now as an elite team in the league, and I think that they're a little bit chipped after losing such a close championship game to the Flyers. I think the improvements around the league, and particularly with DC, definitely shows that the league is kind of catching up to them in sort of their design of stacking tons of stars onto a roster. But I think for this tournament, it's a perfect showcase setting for a Ben Yap to go off, for a Jack Williams to make highlights, for an Antoine to just run up and down the field. And I think that that's going to be really important for a New York team that has struggled to differentiate itself from the pack. You know, the Empire have had numerous buzzer beater closeouts the past couple of seasons in order to maintain their kind of throne position in the league's elites. And I just think this is an opportunity for them to kind of remind everyone, hey, it's been close. DC thinks they got us this year. Maybe not, you know? And I think New York has that opportunity. I think in this kind of environment, a little bit depreciated defense, you're not going to want to see Ben Yap going deep a lot. And that's going to, I think, be New York's game plan, especially with the aforementioned additions of Mark Lynn and Charles Weinberg, who are fantastic deep throwers. So I think it's a big setting for New York, despite it just being a preseason friendly.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we, the three of us all pinky swear to not overreact to whatever happens in this game, whatever it is?
I'm
can
going
we pledge
to.
that now?
I'll pledge that.
I want to overreact.
I'll pledge that while still being excited to see whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll all be watching Saturday night. I am thrilled that I get to be there, flying to Colombia tomorrow, and it's going to be pretty darn special. Adam and Daniel, thank you for taking the time again this week. Look forward to hearing you both on the Swing Pass podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. Coming up, Matt Smith's Upline and Out of Bounds as AUDL Weekly continues.
What's up, AUDL world? Welcome to another episode of Upline and Out of Bounds. Today, I am joined by an AUDL journeyman, Mr. CJ Colicchio, now playing for Pittsburgh. How's it going, CJ?
Oh, it's good. Really excited to be here. Definitely excited to play some games with you, Matt, and the ones that are off the field this time. I don't like playing you on the field, that's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that experience with y'all either, but I'm glad we're in separate divisions this year and we can have some fun on the show today. So with that in mind, we're going to jump right into the intro so the crowd can get to know you a little bit. So first question here is hometown.
I'm from Rochester, New York, which is smack dab in the middle of Buffalo and Syracuse, upstate New York, right next to Lake Ontario.
Very cool. And current age?
I'm going to be 32 this year, so I'm 31 right now.
Yeah, getting up there with me, it seems. Did you attend college? And if so, which college? And what was your major or degree?
Yeah, so I went to SUNY University at Buffalo for my undergrad and grad school, and got my degrees in history and social studies education.
Very cool. And what is your current day job, we'll say?
I am a middle school 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher.
Man, shout out to you for really carrying the water for us throughout this whole COVID thing. Really appreciate the educators out there.
Absolutely.
We're going to move to a little bit of Frisbee stuff here, or ultimate stuff. So current position on the field.
Ooh, man, I don't know. It depends. No, I'm absolutely just a cutter, offensive line cutter. No longer a D-line player, thankfully.
Moving on up.
That's right.
And why don't you fill the audience in on your ultimate origin story? How'd you get started?
Yeah, so before I played Ultimate, I was a college football player for a D3 school called Hartwick. I moved to Buffalo, I transferred, and a couple buddies of mine, I remember getting the text like, hey, do you want to go play Ultimate out on the quad, which is like the most college experience thing ever. And a bunch of these guys were playing, and surely, wouldn't you know, it was Brian Jones, former coach of Empire, soon to be coach of, Pony, all those guys. He was out there. He was the captain of the team, and he was my first ever captain. So shout out to Brian Jones. Thanks for getting me involved in Ultimate.
That's awesome. What a guy to meet as your first captain. That's crazy. All right. Well, from D3 college athlete all the way to AUDL and Pro Ultimate. What has been, this is the last one here, what has been your favorite AUDL moment so far?
Honestly, my favorite AUDL moment was probably back making my debut with the Rochester Dragons. We played the New Jersey Hammerheads. I had been cut the previous year from the Buffalo Hunters. I had been recovering from a blood clot, major injury issue. And that was like my first big game of Ultimate that I had played in over a year and a half. So making like my debut for the Dragons, we won. I think we won like 6 games that year. Rochester was actually pretty good back then. That was probably my favorite moment. I will say that this last season on the Thunderbirds was, while challenging at times, it was still a blast to ball out with so many of the incredible talents we had on the team.
Yeah, no doubt. I always love meeting people from the early days of the AUDL. And also, just a shout out for our viewers, CJ had an absolutely breakout year last year. I looked it up, and I believe you matched your plus minus last year from all your other years combined. So awesome year on you from Pittsburgh, and really looking forward to more.
Thank you. Yeah, really excited about it.
All right, now that we got to know CJ a little better, we're going to jump into today's game, which is, brackets. This has become a favorite this year. I'm going to give you a topic. Today's topic is Marvel movies. So I'm going to give you a few head-to-head brackets. You're going to tell me which movie or series you like more, and we'll see which movie series comes up on top for today. So, jumping right into it. First bracket here. Captain America, the Captain America series, or the Marvel Spider-Man series?
Oh my God. That's a tough one.
They were lined up close to each other in the bracket. It's that's a rough first round. That's like what you feel like is like the final round. I wonder how many people I'm going to make angry about this, but the Captain America ones, like, I don't know. I think Winter Soldier and Civil War pretty good. So I'm going to go with the Captain America one. All right. I think that's strong. Winter Soldier, low-key, maybe the most underrated Marvel movie in my opinion.
Absolutely. But I think that definitely.
All right. Next round. I know that was tough. Next round is the Avengers series or the X-Men series from Marvel.
Yeah, even though Age of Ultron is really bad, I'm still going to go with the Avengers series because Infinity War and the original Avengers and Endgame are just so good. Love the X-Men series, but I do think that Dark Phoenix was just even worse than Age of Ultron. So I'm going to, if it was like the old X-Men with like X-Men and X2, perhaps there might be a little bit in there, but still, not a lot beats Infinity War.
Absolutely. All right, hopping over to the other side of the bracket here. We've got the Doctor Strange series or Iron Man.
Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel MCU guy, so I got to go with my boy Doctor Strange.
All right. Well, that may be the giveaway, but we'll see. Next round, taking the comedic aspect here, Guardians of the Galaxy or Deadpool?
Ooh, that's a tough one too. I think I'd have to go with Guardians. Not that I don't love Deadpool, but I just think that the Guardians movies were such I remember seeing it the first time, had such low expectations and it just exceeded everything, as opposed to Deadpool. It had such high expectations and it met them. But I think like the growth from Guardians, and they're great in everything that they do. So I'll give it to Guardians.
That's fair. Yeah, great series there. All right, jumping back to the other side then, we've got the Avengers versus Captain America.
I think I have to go with the Avengers just because I think whereas like Winter Soldier is really good, like Infinity War is just a movie where everybody loses. And not many movies like that are superheroes show that everybody loses. Like, you know that they're going to come back, obviously, but still, it's just like, it's there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still think the Avengers has to take it.
All right. They're moving on to the finals then, and they're meeting the winner here of Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Doctor Strange, I am so excited for Multiverse of Madness. If it bombs, but I don't think it's gonna. Like, Stephen Strange is too OP.
All right. Well, then you know what it comes down to then. Which one's the better franchise?
In terms of franchise, I'm putting all my chips in the pot here. I'm going to go Doctor Strange. I think Multiverse of Madness is going to be unreal. I think that it's going to blow the expectations. It's going to bring in the multiverse. It's going to bring in the X-Men. It's going to bring in all these different people that are just, it's going to just be a complete mind-shattering experience. So I'm all in on Doctor Strange.
All right. I like that. Strong convictions for the winner of the bracket here, Doctor Strange. I think that's totally legit. And yeah, I like a little weird in the Marvel universe, and he brings that. So that's pretty sweet.
Yes, absolutely. Nothing like a sarcastic dude to lighten the mood.
For sure. All right. Well, I enjoyed playing the game with you today, finding out that Doctor Strange is your guy. But unfortunately, we are out of time. But before we get out of here, any last shout outs you want to give people, places, organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, really want to shout out the DC Shadow. A bunch of my friends here in Pittsburgh and in DC are playing. I'm really excited to come down and watch a few of their games this year. And then also for the college men's division, my alma mater, SUNY Buffalo, they're trying to beat Cornell this year. They're trying to beat Rutgers this year. They're trying to get the Nationals this year, and I'm hoping that they do and represent the alma mater proud.
Very cool. We'll be keeping an eye out for that and for those teams off the field. Like I said, I'm looking forward to watching you take the field in the very competitive Central Division this year. But before that, and for now, back to Evan.
Thanks so much, Matt. Great stuff with CJ. How about those dudes continuing to grind in this league? Matt Smith, if you didn't realize, was a member of the Rhode Island Rampage all the way back in 2012. CJ spent 3 seasons with the Rochester Dragons from 13 to 15. Also was a member of the first ever Charlotte Express team back in 2016. So suffice to say, they've both got some cool vintage AUDL jerseys hanging up in their closets. And man, those original 2012 jerseys, those are special. Absolutely collector's items. Think about it, a decade later. But anyway, that'll do it for tonight's show. My sincere thanks go out to Adam Ruffner, Daniel Cohen, Miranda Knowles, Matt Smith, and CJ Colicchio Colicchio. And of course, thanks also to our editor extraordinaire, Luke Johnson. My name is Evan Lepler. Thank you so much for watching AUDL Weekly here tonight. I am off to Colombia tomorrow, but I'll see you right back here next Wednesday.